and welcome to HUD's 2014 Women's Equality Day program. This is our second day of our Women's Equality Day commemoration, and we welcome you and we thank you for participating, whether you're here at headquarters or virtually anywhere in the world. We're glad that you're there. My name is Tanya Watson, and I am HUD's Federal Women's Program Manager, and also a very proud member of Federally Employed Women's, actually HUD's chapter of Widening Opportunities for Women's chapter of Federally Employed Women. So I'm just very proud to be here, and I'm glad that you're where you are. Just want to give you a little bit of history about the Federal Women's Program. The Federal Women's Program was established in 1967 when President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Executive Order 11375 and added sex as a prohibited form of discrimination. The Federally Employed Women has the primary responsibility of identifying barriers to hiring and advancement of women and to enhance the employment opportunities of women in every area of federal service. And in every federal agency, there should be at least one Federal Women's Program Manager. Now, the Federal Women Program Manager acts as the advisor in matters involving employment and career advancements for women. And the Federal Women's Program serves all employees. I know the title is Federal Women's Program, but what we do impacts every federal employee. So I'm here to serve, and I'm here to serve all. So please feel free to contact me if you have any areas of concerns, and just know that we are about our business. So I really appreciate the opportunity to serve. And now, without further ado, I want to introduce my fearless leader, Mr. John Bennison of the Office of Department of Equal Employment Opportunity. He will address you this morning and tell you just a little bit more about what we're doing here. So if you would just please welcome John Bennison.
Tanya, thank you very much, and good morning to everybody here at headquarters and out in the field. You know, the first rule of public speaking is never to apologize, but I am going to actually start my remarks by apologizing because I do have a cold and my voice is not what it usually is. So hopefully it will last through my remarks, and hopefully you all can put up with my scratchy voice this morning. You know, when I think about Women's Equity Day, I want to tell you that I think about it in a very personal way. And I think about the many women in my life, the many strong women who have influenced and inspired me. Most importantly, 5 women who are in my family, my mother and my 4 sisters. And, you know, my mother, just to give you a brief history, if I may, my mother raised 7 children. 2 of us had severe vision disabilities. She advocated for us in the public school systems to ensure we got the education to which we were entitled. She was a nurse, so she worked while raising 7 kids. And she also cared for her ailing parents as well as my father's ailing parents. So incredibly strong, and I don't know how she did it. I mean, there was only 24 hours in a day. I'm not exactly sure when she slept. But I can tell you, as a child, I always felt you know, very loved and inspired by my mother. And my 4 sisters, you know, they are all raising families, and they are all, one sister is an attorney in the state of Massachusetts. Another two sisters are in business together, running a financial services business. And another sister, and the one to whom I'd like to dedicate my remarks this morning, is my oldest sister. And she inspires me in just so many incredible ways. She is a 3-time survivor of cancer and recently has had her 3rd major surgery as a result of the cancer that she has. You know, whether it's going through surgery or chemo, she exhibits nothing less than pure grace when she goes through these very difficult experiences. And when she sees the worry on the face of those of us in her family, she reaches out to take care of and comfort us. And that just says to me, wow, what an incredible person she is, the strongest person I know. You know, and she also was She also, several years ago, was laid off from an executive position at a telecommunications company, and she didn't let it affect her. She actually started her own small business, her dream job of making and selling cupcakes, and she has now a thriving cupcake shop. So, I share all this with you because I'm often surprised when I hear that, women who do the same job are paid less than men who do the same job. Because the women I've known, and not just in my family, teachers, supervisors, colleagues, so many women I have known have just accomplished so much. They're full of strength and full of inspiration for me and for others in their lives. We have women in our organization here at ODEO who do so much and who are really just incredible parts of the team. Tanya, who introduced me, our Federal Women's Program Manager, I've never seen anybody who works harder than Tanya. She is dedicated and she's always there. She's a champion with a positive attitude. So, as I said, that always surprised, the statistics with respect to pay surprise me, and I don't understand them because women clearly are deserving of the same pay as men, the same opportunities as men, and we need to continue to work on that. So if I may, I'd like to talk with you a little bit about where things stand at HUD for women. You know that women actually represent 60% of our workforce, and women and minority women are actually well represented in our senior executive service cadre. However, minority women in particular are not well represented, not appropriately represented in our feeder grades to the senior executive service. That is the GS 13, 14, and 15 grades. So we are, in the Office of Departmental Equal Employment Opportunity, conducting an in-depth barrier analysis. We've leveraged a partnership with the Office of Policy Development and Research, who has a bunch of statistical experts, to help us understand the data and to determine if barriers for women at HUD exist to getting into the higher grade levels. And if so, we then will develop a plan for addressing those barriers. But in the meantime, we don't, and by the way, we expect to issue the results of that study before the end of the fiscal year this year. So we will definitely share that with everyone here and share with you the plan that we're going to put in place for addressing the issues. But in the meantime, we have to keep taking steps to provide opportunities for women at HUD, and especially for building a pipeline to the higher grade levels so that women are well represented in our leadership corps of the future. I think this can be done through programs like the Speed Mentoring Program that we sponsored with WOW earlier this year. It was highly successful. We got a bunch of executives in a room. We got a bunch of employees to come into the room, and it's, if you've ever heard of speed dating, it was the same sort of concept, but it was speed mentoring. Each mentee spent about 5 to 7 minutes with a mentor, and they got some valuable information, and they also began to form relationships with some of the leaders in the agency who they're still talking with as they plan their career development. We would like to partner, ODEO is going to partner with WOW to develop other programs that will inspire and will support women in the lower grade levels to achieve, if they have the goal of getting to the higher grade levels. So we're going to be doing some very exciting stuff in the next fiscal year. Please stay tuned for that. We're going to set up a meeting immediately with the WOW leadership so that we can get our plans in place to launch that program. Finally, I'd like to say I hope that all of you can participate in the afternoon session today. We have some great speakers from my office, Office of Departmental Equal Employment Opportunity, who will do an overview of what ODEO, Office of Departmental Equal Employment Opportunity, does, our functions, and how we carry them out. With that, I hope you have a great program today, and thank you very much for the opportunity to provide welcoming remarks.
John, thank you so much for those opening remarks. We really appreciate it. And thank you for the kudos. I appreciate that. Now, our first guest speaker is Helen Robinson. I had an opportunity to meet Helen Robinson during actually my installation as the first vice president of the WOW chapter of FEW. So it's a pleasure to introduce you again to others. Helen Robinson is the regional manager for the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area of federally employed women. As we have national representation, we also have regional representation, and she is handling that for the federally employed women. So I don't want to belabor her introduction. She has more to say about herself, and I think she would say it better than I would. So let's welcome Ms. Helen Robinson. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I know you guys can do a little bit better than that. I know it's close to 11 o'clock, but we can do. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you. Now, the first thing I'd like to say is Happy Women's Equality Day. While I know it was yesterday, but we're celebrating it again the second day today, I'd like to say every day should be Women's Equality Day. Don't you agree? Yes. Thank you. In my role as FEW, I'm the regional manager. I oversee 28 chapters we have here in the D.C. metro region area, and I also cover Panama. Now, while we don't have any chapters in Panama at this time, I'm willing to go do the research to find a chapter for us. Yes, I'm all about FEW. Just in case those of you might not know what FEW does, we work as an advocacy group to improve the status of women employed by the federal government. This includes contact with Congress to encourage progressive legislation. Our organization is dedicated to promoting equality for women and addressing concerns of women in the federal workforce. The first thing I'd like to tell you is a couple of alphabets of the laws of FEW. This is by one of our members, Arlena Fitch Gordon. The first one is acquiring new opportunities. At every point, we should acquire a new opportunity whenever it comes along, and that includes perhaps being part of your chapter here at WOW for the federally employed women. If not this chapter, you're welcome to join any other chapter within our region and acquire some new opportunities and skills. The second one is belief that one person can make a difference. How many of you believe that one person can make a difference? Raise your hand. Very good. Martin Luther King was one person. He made a difference. Hillary Clinton made a difference. Barack Obama made a difference. We have all kinds of leaders that one person made a difference and have made history. So believe that you too can make a difference, not only within FEW, but within your churches, within your homes, within your communities. The second thing is helping one another along the way. One of the most important things we as women need to do is to reach out and help each other along the way. I strongly advocate mentorship. When I say mentorship, it's not necessarily women. You can get a men mentor. I have actually 3 mentors. I have 2 women mentors, each who do different things, and 1 male mentor. The reason that I have a male mentor is that men have a different point of view than women. So if I want to find out some information, men do things totally different. If you have read the book Leanin' by Sheryl Sandberg, how many of you read that? Okay, so 2 people have read that. So that book really shows you the difference between how men do things and how women do things. And when I'm interested in getting promotion or I'm interested in getting some different points of view, I go to all 3 of my mentors and get some guidance. But I listen to all 3, especially what what my male mentor has to say as well. The other thing is the initiative to empower ourselves. We need to encourage ourselves. Sometimes we wait for people to pat us on the back to tell us how good we do. After I do this, I've told my husband and my daughter to watch this program. So when I leave here, I'm going to call them and say, how did I do? How did I do? We always want somebody to pat us on the back. How about we encourage ourselves? How about you pat yourself on the back? How about everybody give yourself a big hand right now? You don't need anyone to encourage you. You can encourage yourself, because sometimes no one might not encourage you. No one might say that was a great speech. No one might pat you on the back. But if you pat yourself on the back, if you encourage yourself, you can keep moving forward regardless of what anyone else does. The second thing is justice, to treat everyone fairly. We want to be able to treat everyone fairly regardless of who they are, their race, their size, their sexual preference, whatever it is. We need to be able to learn how to treat everyone fairly and judge people on their character and the kind of individuals they are. Life only goes around one time. You only got the one shot. So at the one shot, you need to enjoy it. You need to do whatever it is that you set your mind out to do. Don't let anybody tell you you cannot do different. Risk causes risk becomes progress. Progress demands risk. Sometimes we become so comfortable in our skin, so comfortable at the jobs we're at, that we don't seek other opportunities, that we don't try to climb that next ladder. And sometimes it's a little scary. When you're comfortable, you're okay, but it's okay to take a risk. And sometimes when that risk doesn't pay off and you fall, it's all right to get back up. It's all right to climb to that next thing. Sometimes failure produces success. If you fail, you know what you've done wrong, and so you go back and you try again, and you say, okay, I did it wrong. Let me see what I can do better. Unlocking doors that appear to be closed. There are a lot of doors in our lives that appear to be closed. Maybe it's something you want. It's okay to try to find the key to unlock that door. And you don't have to do it by yourself. Reach out and get help if you cannot unlock that door. But there is no door that is not unlocked. Say you want a promotion and you feel like, oh, I'm not going to be able to get that promotion. Maybe I'm not qualified for that promotion. Go ahead and try anyway. You know what we as women do? Sometimes we go and we see the job listing and we see it requires 10 things, 1, 2, 3. Out of those 10 things, we may have 8. And because we don't have the other 2 things, we don't apply for those jobs. But you know what men do? They have 5 out of the 10, and they apply just like they have all 10. We as women need to do those same things. We need to get that same opportunity and apply. You know, they say throw it against the wall and see what sticks. It can't hurt to submit your application. It can't hurt to find out if you can do that position. Be willing to confront and act. Zero in on your own style of leadership. Everyone has a different style of leadership. Some people are loud, some people are soft, some people sort of, everyone deals with leadership a little bit differently. I can honestly say my way of leadership has changed over the years because my situations have changed over the years. And I have learned, I can honestly say I'm from Brooklyn, New York, which probably doesn't mean a lot to, there's somebody's pumping her fist in the back, all right. So that might not mean a lot to any of you, but for me it does, because I see the way people here in DC do things and the way growing up in Brooklyn, New York, how I did things. And it's certainly a different way of doing things. I remember I was a political, I held an elected position, and I remember the mayor at the time, I was a council member, the mayor came to me and he said, I need to talk to you, Helen. And I happily skipped in the office, and I was like, yes. He says, you know what, we're gonna have to work on you a little bit. I was like, why is that? He said, because you're like a bull in a china shop. I was like, wow, a bull in a china shop. But you know what? It made me a better person because I asked him to sit down and go through the ABCs of what exactly did he mean and what exactly was the problem. And when he told me, I actually had to sit down. I don't mind constructive criticism. Guess what? Constructive criticism is absolutely fine. It helps you grow as an individual. It helps you grow as a person. What I have a problem with is criticism, and there's nothing to back it up. Oh, you know what? Listen, that shirt is ugly. That doesn't mean anything to me. Just tell me why the shirt is ugly. Well, you know what? You're brown, the shirt is brown, those things don't mix. Maybe you should get a lighter color. I can go along with that. We also know that Women's Equality Day is certainly needed all over the world, because at this time, I don't know if you know this, that women make 77 cents on the dollar. So for every dollar a man makes, women make 77 cents. And our African American counterpart sisters, we make 69 cents on the dollar. And our Latina sisters make something like 60 cents on the dollar. Now, those are not accurate figures. They're sort of rounded, but they're pretty close to what it is. So we have a long way to go. We need to move on. The road to leadership is not always easy, but it is most rewarding. I started my road to leadership at age 17. When I was 17, I became a Girl Scout leader with a group in Brooklyn, New York. And from then on, I started doing other leadership things. When I got married, I lived in Hawaii, and I moved to Bladensburg, Maryland. When I moved to Bladensburg, Maryland, I found that there were a lot of committees. And every time I would go on a committee and I would join, people would always say, would you be willing to lead this committee? Would you be willing to be in charge? And I took up the charge, and I learned. And one day, the mayor of the town came to me and said, him and another gentleman came to my home and said, we think you make a great councilwoman. Would you consider being a councilwoman? And he sat down and talked with me and my husband at the time. And my husband said, no, I don't think she should be a good councilwoman because she needs to be home with my daughter, who was very young at the time. She needs to take care of the house, and she needs to go to work. So I went along with the program, and I let that opportunity pass me by. The next time an election came along, I didn't say anything to my husband. I went and filed the papers. Every day when I came home, my daughter and I would go out door to door, knocking on doors, giving papers. And in between, what really spurred me on was my mother, unbeknownst to me, was diagnosed with cancer. And when I went to see her for that last time in February, she said to me, I told her what I was going to do. She said, do you really think you could win? I said, absolutely I can win. And I said, I want you to get your nice dress on and you could come and join me. Well, my mother didn't live to see that election. She died in February. That election was in October. But after February, I was more determined than ever to win. I actually won the seat. I served 4 years. But what that did is that spurred me on. I must tell you, by the time my husband found out what I had done, it was almost like election night. It was time to be sworn in. But sometimes you just gotta encourage yourself. There's a gospel song called Encourage Yourself. It says sometimes you just got to encourage yourself. I had to encourage myself, and I had to go through that next step. And I hate to, and I'm not saying to people, disregard whatever it is your spouse or whatever is saying, but sometimes you just got to make a decision and decide that you want to do. And it was the best decision I've ever made. I haven't looked back since. Since then, I've worked as a Girl Scout leader here in Maryland. I've been the director of their spring and summer camps for over 13 years. And in addition to that, I started off as the president of my Bethesda chapter of the Federally Employed Women. I then became a regional rep, and now I'm a regional manager. And it has been a very interesting road, and I have enjoyed it. These are my tips personally on being a good leader from my point of view. Never ask someone to do something that you would not do yourself. I never ask anyone to do a task that I wouldn't be willing to do myself, because I don't think I'm better than anyone, and I don't think anything's more difficult or any different than I would do. Admit when you're wrong. Sometimes we make mistakes, and I don't play the blame game. If I made a mistake, I will say, you know what? I estimated that we would have 150 people at this event, and that was incorrect, or I didn't send out the notice on time like I was supposed to. I don't have a problem admitting when I'm wrong. Get to know folks on your own, not what other people's opinions are. You have so many people that will come to you. I don't like Sally, so you shouldn't like Sally. I don't work like that. Let me get to know Sally on her own, because maybe there's a reason that you and Sally do not get along, which has absolutely nothing to do with me. I don't know if you've ever watched a show In Living Color, and there was a character on there, and I think her name was Benita something, and she would always say, I ain't one to gossip, but you know about XYZ and ABC, but you better not talk about Miss Jenkins, and then she fall out, oh, Miss Jenkins. Those are the kind of people that I stay away from. Those people that say, I'm not one to gossip, but, well, after a while, I'm sort of leaning away from you, because if you're not one to gossip, then why do it? I'd rather learn people on their own merits. I'd rather get to know you one-on-one. And my thing is, if you do something to me one-on-one, then I have a reason not to dislike you, not because anyone else says. And sometimes we as women can get caught up in a clique. Oh, I don't like her because her shoes are blue today. Let's not do that. We need to really work on providing leadership to everybody regardless. Embrace your greatness. I'm working on a speech called Embrace Your Greatness. I would like for people to embrace their greatness. I know some people will get on me because they feel that, oh, she thinks she's all of that. It's okay, I am all of that. And it's okay to say that I am all of that. Those people, I'm embracing my greatness. I have honestly done a lot of things. And my pet peeve is people who take on the title of any role and don't follow through. Don't say I want to be president of the I Got an Orange Club, and then you want to play with apples. No, ma'am. If you're going to take on a role as a leadership role, then do the work, and then you can call yourself a leader. As a leader, you should also make yourself someone who would want to follow you. No one wants to follow a bad leader. We should make ourselves likable. We should do the job so people will want to follow us. Never let anyone take you out of your character. And what I mean is, I won't allow people to take me out of my character by, if they come to me and they say negative things, I won't allow myself to say negative things back. I always try to keep a positive outlook and look on the sunny side of the street. My goals for the region are to make the region a more cohesive place that we can get all our chapters together. I'm working with the chapters to make sure they're doing everything that they're supposed to do to support their members, providing more guidance to each of the chapter presidents and to each of the members, provide more opportunities for leadership positions on the chapter and regional level. There are a lot of leadership opportunities on the chapter and leadership levels on the federally employed women. And one of the things I tell everyone is, by being a part of FEW, by being a part of a leadership, this looks really good on your resume. Don't take FEW as just an organization to belong to, but it gets to show your boss that you're more than a one-dimensional individual, that you have other skills, that you have other leadership skills. And I tell everyone, I started off as a chapter president, regional rep, now regional manager. My next move is to ascend to the national board, although I currently serve on the national board because I'm a regional manager, but one day I hope to be president of FEW. And it's okay that I want to go and say, I want to be president of FEW. It's no secret. I'm not going to whisper it. I'm going to say it right to you today. One day, and now it might not be 10 years from now, but I want to be president of FEW. And because I'm being offered these leadership challenges, that is going to afford me the opportunity and the education to be president of FEW. My goal is to attend at least one, I have 28 chapters, so the goal is to at least attend one event that each of the 28 chapters are doing. That's a lot of doing over 28 chapters. I want to reach out to more young people and provide more training for our members and be visible and accessible. I'm currently pretty visible and accessible as it stands, but I really want to reach out to members and be more visible and accessible. I also forgot to do this, but let me do that now. I'd like to thank Kanae Black, the president of WOW, for first of all putting this forum together, because it is no easy task putting together any type of programming, and she has done it flawlessly. I'd like to thank her. I'd like to thank her for inviting me to be a speaker this morning. I'd like to thank all of you in the audience who are here. I think that is pretty much what I have to say. However, I do have a question for you out there. We have 4 tiers that we work on with FEW. Can anybody tell me what one of the 4 is? Who said? I want one of them to tell me. Okay, does anybody else out there know what it is? You didn't hear them say it? Okay, I got a gift for anybody who knows what at least one of them are. Nobody? It begins with a C. Okay, the next one begins with an L. No. The next one begins with a T. Wow, really? Are any of you FEW members? Yes. Yeah. Woo! Okay, she said training. She got it. That's right. Oh, see? Kim's going to write it on paper. So it's compliance, legislative, training, and diversity. Okay. So also, I'd just like to mention some of the things that we have upcoming for FEW. On September 27th, we have a regional training program that will be is on a Saturday. It will be taking place. The topic is called Giving You the Best That I've Got. And we have 8 dynamic speakers who will be talking to you about ways to enhance yourself. Usually when we do FEW training, we certainly do it around training on how to get better jobs, how to improve your jobs. This training is going to be a little bit different. This training will help you to, how do you better yourself? How do you make yourself a better person before you actually get to the job? We have someone who's coming to talk about stress, the stress doctor. Someone who's going to talk about being a better you, how to relax, how to get it all together. This training is, for FEW members, it is $5. For non-FEW members, it is $20. For that $5 for a FEW member, it includes a light continental breakfast and a catered lunch. This is our way of giving back to our members for being a part. Now, you cannot get a catered lunch for $5 anywhere in Washington, D.C., Maryland, or Virginia. So we'd like you to join us. And on October 18th, we also have our chapter leadership training, where we're asking all leaders of all the chapters, which would include the vice president, president, treasurer, secretary, and the other chairs, to attend this mandatory training to learn more about FEW and what FEW does and what your role in FEW should be. Having said that, again, I would like to thank Kanae for this opportunity. I'd like to thank you for your attendance and your opportunity. Does anyone have any questions at this time? No? Yes? Step to the mic, please. I know that's right. You're correct.
When it comes to the diversity piece, unfortunately, I've seen, I can just speak for HUD, the actual, if two women apply for the job and one of them doesn't get it, the infighting and, the hostility, instead of providing the support. It just wasn't your time to get the position. It's not a big thing, as opposed to supporting one another. In particular with the minority groups, it's really a sad state where there isn't a constant support. Like Kanae and I work great, Tanya and I work great, but like a lot of people don't get that. How do you deal with that within FEW?
How do I deal with that within FEW? You know what, to be totally honest, I don't think we really have that kind of thing. Now, here's what we do. You do have women that will, I don't like this individual, I don't like that individual. But what my goal is to get these women together, to get them together as a group. And I can tell you what I've done personally. I just recently put together my regional board. And for each regional board member, I sat down one-on-one with them and did training and asked questions and asked them, did they have questions of me? And I got to learn those individuals one-on-one. And I was really surprised about what I learned. And what I do is, when we have people who are not getting along like that, I sit down with each of them to get one-on-one, because I want to hear each side of the story, and then I sit with them together to get everybody together to try to figure out what would be the best way to approach this problem. Sometimes it's simply a misunderstanding, that people just misunderstand, or they didn't hear anything right, or they didn't understand it right. And once we get that straightened out, it works out pretty well. But that was a great question. I don't know how to answer, when you're talking about the infighting within HUD and women who are getting promotions, I don't really know the answer to that, because I'm not sure how HUD goes about doing it, how you do things here at this agency. So for me to try to provide an answer to something that I'm not familiar with the environment would be a gross misjustice for your question. Thank you. Anyone else have any questions? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Helen. That was a wonderful, wonderful presentation, and I appreciate the information you provided. Let's give her another round of applause. The next we'll have our keynote speaker, Ms. Kimberly Kirkpatrick. She is the National Vice President of Congressional Relations with Federally Employed Women. Yesterday, we had the opportunity to have the president, the national president of FEW speak. Now, we're running over. We have the national vice president, so I'm very pleased to introduce to some and to bring back to others who've known you for over the years. As I've heard earlier, we've met at one meeting or another, and it's good to see you again. And she'll introduce herself as well, as she knows herself better than I do. Kim, if you would come up, please.
Thank you. Are we in the afternoon yet? Good morning, everybody. And I just have to say, I'm newly elected to this position. Whoop, whoop. So I have to echo a lot of what Helen has spoken about this morning, but I'm going to gear it towards our legislative program at FEW. FEW's legislative program was a big piece in why I joined FEW. It was a big piece in building my confidence and finding my voice. I had a mentor early on in my career in the government. I've been in the government for over 20 years. Had a couple of kids in the government, a couple of promotions, a couple of different jobs. Women are very resilient. And we recreate ourselves repeatedly as our journeys go through our lives, whether it be at home or at work or in our outside activities like FEW. The legislative program of FEW is a grassroots organization. So it's really about women or individuals who have a common goal working together. And oftentimes we forget that we do have common goals. I think when I hear about the infighting over positions, it really is a sad thing to hear that, because we're all in it. We all want the best qualified person to get it. And sometimes we have more than one qualified person. And sometimes we have more than one outstanding person being interviewed. And we have to recognize that. We have to give respect and credit where it's due sometimes. And I think that's hard when you're not the one on the receiving end. But the legislative program at FEW is really about finding those commonalities and finding a voice to express them. When I started a FEW chapter at one of my agencies, I immediately was thrown into what they call a lobby day. And coming in as chapter president, I didn't know a lot about FEW, but I knew that at my agency we needed an organization that could help unify and progress women in my agency. So the lobby day was an interesting experience for me, because I showed up without any support from my chapter. I showed up in an environment where there was other women that I had no idea who they were. And we all went out on a mission that day to talk about the things that were important to us. And one of the things we spoke about that day was paid parental leave. Now, when I started for the government, I was in my early 20s. I had a child within my first 2 years of being employed in the government. I didn't have any leave. I had to take advance leave, pay it back, 4 hours a paycheck. It's a horrible spot to be in. And in addition to that, as a female and as a mother, you're carrying a lot of the load at home too. I love my husband to death, but oftentimes I was the one needing to take the children to the doctors. I was the one staying up at night with them when they were sick, things of that nature. If you have a husband that does that for you, I applaud you. But oftentimes it's left on us. Well, paid parental leave as an issue for females in the government should be a priority. It should be an important piece, the same as our federal women's program. It's nice to hear that there is a federal women's program manager here at HUD, because at some agencies they don't have federal women program managers. At some agencies, that person is carrying more than one hat. I spoke at an agency yesterday where the federal women's program manager was actually one person that was the Hispanic employment program manager, the disability program manager. She was the women's program manager. She carried many hats. So how can you be really good at one thing if you're carrying so many hats? So this is what FEW comes into play. FEW actually partners as the outside entity for federal women's programs. That's how we got started. Back in the day, way back, federal women's program managers was supposed to be an executive order, is getting out there, but it was trying to figure out how the agencies were going to implement this program. And a group of women got together, and they saw the importance of a federal women program manager. They saw the importance of a federal women's program. And with anything in the government, when you think of sustainability, oftentimes things fall to the wayside. So they were afraid that if these issues didn't remain being pushed to the forefront, that they would fall to the wayside. So these same women got together and formed Federally Employed Women, and that's how I'm here today. Now, we just had what we call Lobby Day, where in July at the FEW Leadership Conference, we actually had a Lobby Day kind of in tangent with it, and we had, I guess there was probably, there were over 60 meetings. We met with senators, we met with congressional representatives, we met with the staffers, and do not ever think a staffer is not as important as the representative, because they are. Sometimes they are the person pushing that information in front of them. And one of the areas that we focused on was the federal women's program. That's what we pushed for. So when I think back over my career and how I got into FEW, how I used FEW to advance myself, my own goals, but also how I helped those around me advance their goals, one way is finding your seat at the table. I think it's so important for us to have a voice, to have our opinions and be able to vocalize our opinions. And oftentimes when we're in the workplace, we can't express our opinions on regulations and laws that are being discussed, right? We all know about the Hatch Act. We know there's ethic rules that prevent us from talking about things of that nature. But FEW gives you an outlet to be able to talk about it, to be able to take action against the things that you think aren't right. Okay, so the Federal Women's Program was a big issue. Everybody that participated in Lobby Day was on leave. You have to be on leave in order to participate in a lobbying event as a federal employee. Other people actually chose to do letter writing campaigns. We have a tool, it's an advocacy tool that we use called CapWiz. It's easy, click, put in your zip code, it'll tell you who your representatives are, and you can send them letters. We have templates. We also have areas where you can write in your own personal story. Your representatives want to hear from you, but don't do it on the job and don't do it on the government computer. Don't even do it when you're teleworking. Don't do it at lunch. Do it when you're in the evening, at home, on the weekend. That's when it's appropriate. But FEW gives you an avenue to have a seat at the table and to bring your voice to that table. One of the other things that FEW has really taught me is to say, why not me? When I started in the government, I started as a GS2. I started as a GS2 office automation clerk. Remember back in the day when you had a list of people that took an administrative test? I came off that list. My office was very lucky to get me off that list. But eventually I progressed and I moved myself forward, but it was by sheer determination and by using my resilience and recreating myself at there's like pivotal moments in your career that you have to make big decisions and you have to be able to recreate yourself. It's hard to go from an administrative field to a technical field to go into a career ladder. But even when you're in the career ladder positions, you need to be looking forward. You don't want to be stagnant. You don't want to become, like Helen said, complacent in what you're doing. I think the legislative program of FEW is a great attraction. There's 4 focus areas in FEW: training, diversity, compliance, and legislative. Those focus areas are there for a reason because those are where you find your voice, you find your seat at the table. So I've told you a little bit about my journey. I've also told you a little bit about some of the things that you could participate in with FEW's legislative program, such as Lobby Day, letter writing campaigns, voter registration. Women need to vote. We need to vote. Women, men, the youth, we need to be encouraging people to register to vote. As Helen said, one person can make a difference. Your vote does make a difference, and you should be voting. FEW doesn't focus just on women's issues. We actually have a 3-tier program where we talk about federally employed women, we talk about women in general, and we also talk about federal employees. So it's open. Men join FEW all the time. As long as you support the mission of the organization, you are more than welcome to join. And I have applications in my bag if anybody needs one. We come prepared. But I think it's a great avenue to stretch beyond some of the constraints we find in our office. Sometimes in our careers, we find that people don't always see our true selves. We all want to bring our true selves to work, but we often can't. But I think that FEW provides an alternative to actually showing your true self at work. You can show it in other ways. Oftentimes, coming in as an office clerk, I was overlooked for opportunities to lead. I was overlooked to participate in things, in projects. And I think when you find your voice and you start speaking up and stating what your goals are in your career, you have a better chance of advancement. So the question is always, why not me? Why not me? Why can't I do that? Why can't I run for the council as a member of the council? Why can't I apply for that position? And then the other question is, why can't Helen run for that position? Or why can't Tanya run for that position? The question is to ask yourself and then ask those around you. You should be supporting the people that are around you and encouraging them to apply for positions, to apply for advancement, to look for opportunities to grow even outside of their career, because we dictate our fate. We are the ones that dictate our directions. We shouldn't let people put us in a box and say that this is where we should be and how we should progress. And I think I'm going to go back to the legislative program because that's what I'm supposed to be speaking about today. I believe in VIEW totally 100%, and have set my own goals as I have managed to get through, starting as a chapter president, moving on to the regional representative, just like Helen. And actually, I worked with Helen quite a bit on the regional level. And then going into the national board, I was determined I wanted a seat on the national board. When you go to a national board meeting with VIEW, there is a hum in the room. They usually have it set up in the big U-shaped format. And if you don't feel the hum, then you must not have had coffee that morning, okay? Because when you walk in, there's a great sense of power, okay? Women sitting around the table, and men too, because we have had men on the board, sitting around this U-shaped table talking about the issues that really matter and how we can come up with solutions to the issues that we see. We don't just identify problems, we actually help provide the solutions as well. So I think I'm about done. I'm going to wrap it up with just making sure that, to reiterate, make sure you find your seat at that table, spread out and own your spot at the table, find your voice, and help those around you to find their seat at the table. Those are my leave it and take away points for today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kim, for that passionate speech. We really appreciate you coming and sharing with us. And right now, I'd like to bring up our president of Widening Opportunities for Women, Ms. Kanae Black. And yes, to do a presentation for our speakers.
Hello. We want to present you with an award for participating in our event for today. It says this is a certificate of appreciation presented to Helen Robinson in recognition of your exemplary support and contributions to federally employed women, HUD chapter Widening Opportunities for Women, in the Federal Women's Program's Women's Equality event. And we also have some delicious homemade cookies that Tanya made. So she's a jack of all trades.
You deserve a hug, Tanya. Thank you. Thank you. This is absolutely lovely. I will treasure this and put this up in my home as soon as I get home tonight. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Kanae didn't say this, but she's actually going to be working with me as my assistant on the region as a regional rep. Woo! Yeah. See how leadership works?
Kimberly. Again, we just wanted to thank you, and a small token. We got this award made for you. It says, again, Certificate of Appreciation presented to Kimberly Kirkpatrick, National Vice President of Congressional Relations, and recognitions of your exemplary support and contributions to federally employed women, HUD chapter Widening Opportunities for Women, and the Federal Women's Program Women's Equality Day event. And we also have some cookies for you that Tanya made.
Yay.
So thank you.
Thank you so much. This is really nice. I feel like I just got a VMA award. Thank you.
Again, thank you very much. We really appreciate your knowledge and sharing it with us here. And thank you to those participating. And I'm sure that at the end of this program, we'll have people lining up for membership to federally employed women. And we, as Kimberly said, she has applications. So we're looking forward to working with each and every one of you. And I'd also like to invite you to come back to this afternoon's program at 1:30. We will have a workshop with our own Teresa Marshall. She will be talking about navigating through the EEO process. So please come back or tune in at 1:30 Eastern Standard Time. And thank you very much for coming. We appreciate it.